welcome to Cover 2 Cook. We are on episode 45. We're going to be recapping the MMA today. College football. We're going to be recapping college football. Talk about how we did on our bets, our must-watch for NFL, and finish with our bets for the NFL. But before I get too far, let me bring on my co-host, Mr. Tim Cook. How you doing today?
I'm doing good today. We had some excitement, post-game excitement on a few of the college football games, which we will get into. But overall, the games I think were really good.
Yeah, and that's why I made the joke about MMA, because a lot of fighting last night, just too much. Too much.
Yeah.
Before we get into too much of the games, I do have to say, these rivalries are more than ever, and why I say that is because of social media. You know, they're like, well, these teams are distance only 100 miles. Well, 100 miles ain't nothing now. No. And these kids play against each other and AAU and 7-on-7 and all these things to get this up to a certain point. But then social media makes it just even more of a thing. So let's get started with our first game must-watch for college football was Michigan versus Ohio State. We played it off. Not much of a must-watch game. Comes out to be a little bit of an upset. What did you think about this game?
Yeah, the game was, it was a typical Big Ten game. Low scoring, defenses. I think Michigan's defense came to play yesterday. They shut down Will Howard and them. You know, they had that interception right in the end zone, and they took advantage of it, Michigan. And, they got up, 7-3. It was up to 10-3. They ended up fighting back, got to 10-10. And then it seemed like in the second half, they were just punching each other, haymakering each other. And finally, they got down the field and 13-10. And it just seemed like Michigan's defense just pinned their ears back against Will Howard. And they couldn't even run the ball too, with Junkins and Trevion Henderson.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Honestly, I'll give credit to Michigan. They had their great, the offense had 40 yards passing or some stupid shit like that. The defense stood up to what I thought had a powerful offense. But I'm not going to give them too much kudos because who lost this game was Ohio State.
Yep.
Ohio State was not ready.
No.
It's not learned their lesson. That game is decided on physicality. You have to be the more physical team if you want to win that game. And you still haven't done that. That's why Ryan Day will get fired at the end of this year. There's no way you bring him back. You can't lose 4. Can't do it. I don't care if they can win the national championship, but people are going to be pissed if they lost this Michigan game. Yep. So you had to be more physical. Will Howard shit down his leg. Some of these throws yesterday were awful.
Yeah.
That one where they're at their old goal line, he throws it 5-yard out, and it gets picked. It was like, you're looking at one for 7.
Yep.
And then Michigan barely can get it in for 7.
Yep.
So Michigan, I laugh because I saw the fans like Dave Portnoy going out there and saying, this was your year to beat us. And you didn't.
Yep.
Because supposedly we got the number 1 recruit coming in and all this stuff, but like their offense is like a JV college offense. I love that the quarterback, walk on, makes a starting position, great, survived cancer, everything's great. But that kid he's not
very good. Yeah.
So no, I was so surprised by this game, and it just seemed like if Ohio State don't pull away, which in the first half I was like, okay, whatever. Because Ohio State usually plays these second half games.
Right.
And then he throws another pick, and it was like, okay, you guys going to let him around? So,
yeah, and they did, too. And they missed 2 field goals. There's 6 points right there. And they were chip shots. They weren't long-distance ones. They were chippies, and he still missed them. He made the first one at the beginning of the game, but then it seemed like he couldn't make anything after that. And, so like you said, you're letting them back in the longer the game went, the more confidence Michigan had. And they have that's one thing about Michigan. They have a very good defense. They will they can stop you. So, I thought that was, the big key.
Well, and then we got to talk about the post game, right? So the game ends with a knee. Michigan goes to grab a flag, which at the time, Ohio State was singing their fight song, right?
Right.
Win or lose, they sing it. Michigan goes over and grabs a couple flags, wanted to go stab in the middle of it. Okay. Ohio State, as you see this, which there's so many camera angles now that on social media, it was a great afternoon game because we got to see all of it. You see that Ryan Day turns and sees that all of his players are taking off because they hear about it. Yep. So then they meet at the middle of the field. They're jabbering back and forth. and then 33, which something Smith, I think, whatever, for Ohio State, grabs the flag and rips it off, and then that's when the melee just started happening.
Yeah.
Which then resulting in a cop walking in the middle of it and just macing everything.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna say this real quick. That guy should be fired. No kids should, and I get it. It needed to be tamed down, the fight and all that. But just whipping out mace in the middle of all these, like some of these people were actually pulling back to get this situated, and you just maced it. It is not how you handle those situations. If anything, it gets the blood flowing to want to fight more. Because you're fighting your eyes, literally, at that time. Not a good scene at all. I think what the Michigan guy said at the end of it by saying it was a great game, and then you have this, it makes the game look bad, but you need to learn how to lose. Well, Michigan, stabbing flags in the middle of the field is not how you win. Boom, that's how I finished it right there, that game, right? Oh, guess what? We found out the rest of the day. That's exactly how you win. So, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was not. And another thing I noticed too is Fox didn't move away from that. Usually, when there's a fan that runs on the field at any sporting event, they won't show it. Fox stayed right on it, and they didn't move off of it whatsoever. I mean, Jenny Taft was interviewing, I think, Sherrod Moore, and next thing you know, he had to pull away because all this was going on. I totally agree. You don't, because not only did you have players in there, but you had fans as well. Running onto the field. And so you're going to start macing fans too? I mean, I think these colleges have to get this under control. These college programs letting people – you got to have more security. I'm sorry. Especially a rivalry game like this.
Well,
I don't think you should bring the flag out. I think this all starts back with Baker Mayfield doing it when he played at Oklahoma. Because I think Ryan Day might have been the OC at that time at Oklahoma.
No.
He was at Ohio State. Okay.
Yeah.
So this all stems back from this and pulling this crap. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. I mean, I get it. You won. What's going to happen is they're not going to be able to celebrate at the middle of the field for these anymore. They're just going to make them go right into the locker room.
Well, and that's why I came back to the whole these rivals are as big as ever because of social media and stuff like this. But this didn't just happen in this game. It happened at UNC, NC State. They went out and tried to snag the flag. It happened at Arizona State. Arizona State put a trident right in the middle of the field. They fight. That was Florida State last night. Florida State, the coaches got into it because Florida came out and tried to do the flag, and the coach Norvell, or I think that's the name, was like, and he literally is looking at the coach. He's like, what is that? And he's pointing to what's happening in the middle. He goes and grabs the Florida flag and throws it. The coach did. It was like, NCAA's got to step in here.
Yeah,
should be suspensions. And I'm going to say this, not because I hate Notre Dame, or not. I love Notre Dame. Not that I hate Ohio State, but there should be players suspended. Yeah. They should be suspended. And if their next game is a playoff game, suspended. Yeah. I don't. That was over the line. That 33, that linebacker that grabs the flag, which I think you have to do something about this because it was an awful weekend of fighting.
Yep.
And I get it. There's going to be fights during the game. There was like Alabama, Auburn. There was a little bit of a tussle. BYU last night, there was a little bit of a tussle. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Post game, when people are trying to celebrate and it's getting into fisticuffs, that is crazy. That is something that has to change.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was a bad for a good game. It was a bad ending to a good game. You know, and you just even Joe Klatt on the after the game goes, somebody needs to grab that flag because not only that, there's a pole with that. Somebody could try to stab somebody with that thing. You know, and that was dangerous. Some fan could grab that pole and decide to hit somebody with it. You know, it just.
Which I did see that the pole was still with the original person that had it.
Okay.
But the flag got recovered by an alumni of Michigan going to grab the flag because Ohio State just kept throwing it. So Michigan guy, well, then he gets pushed. I'm going to say this last thing about this because we need to move on.
Yeah.
If I'm going to get in a fist fight, I want to be in full pads. Okay? I'm just going to say that. Hit me all you want because it ain't going to hit me.
Right. So,
because you saw some of these guys put their helmet on to get into the fight, and I was like, good, that's smart. Don't swing that helmet.
Yeah.
So that moves us to another 11 o'clock game that was a little bit of a surpriser. South Carolina versus Clemson. I took this bet in this week. I said, hey, if you want to be risky, Take South Carolina. This game started out with Clemson just looking good. And it's just how it is every week with them, I feel like, where it was like, this team should be in the playoffs. They should be going. South Carolina kind of started slow, but that Sellers for South Carolina is a stud. Absolute stud. He makes these plays out of sacks and stuff like this, but Clemson had all these chances. And I will say, what I've read was a lot of people were like, well, Clemson dominated this game. No, they did not. South Carolina dominated this game. South Carolina allowed a couple big Clemson plays that scored in touchdowns, but South Carolina had this game the whole time. I think South Carolina made these dumb plays. That interception Sellers had, red zone, which then resulted in. And then Sellers running it in for a touchdown to win it. It was an awesome, great. My wife thought that Notre Dame was playing at the time because of the way I was yelling. I hate Clemson. I'm glad South Carolina won this. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then their running back for South Carolina went out with an injury. Yeah. So it's pretty much just Sellers. It was another one of these games that Clemson could put them away. Yeah. They let them keep playing. And these good teams in rivalry games, if you let them keep playing, they're going to come back and bite you in the ass and win. And then, Sellers had that rushing touchdown that got the lead. But then Clemson goes right down the field in field goal range. Klubnik tries to fit one in, gets intercepted, ball game's over. It's just like you cannot let these good teams, especially South Carolina right now is probably playing one of the better ball right now in the probably NCAA, So you've got to put these teams away. You've got to.
Well, and I was going to ask you, I mean, we talk about some of these upsets. Ohio State lost, Miami lost. Now Miami's not in the ACC championship.
Right.
Do you think South Carolina deserves to be in the playoffs?
By the eye test, with 3 losses, probably not. I just don't think they've got enough. I don't think overall the team is,
I think they got to put them in. And who you take out is Miami. I don't think Miami is in the playoffs now because of what. But and I still on the fence about Indiana. I don't think Indiana.
No, they looked pretty good yesterday. Woo.
They played Purdue.
I know.
I mean, Jesus Christ. I think Notre Dame could have put up 90 points against them if they would have played them. But I'm just saying that, like, the way that that South Carolina State is, South Carolina is playing right now, it's too good. And you look at it, their losses are just second things. Like, I think it's a disappointment if they don't put them in.
Yeah. Yeah, because their losses, Alabama in the last second field goal that they could have beat. Their losses are just heartbreaking losses.
Quality losses. They're quality losses. So,
right.
And then that moves us to our night game. We thought this was going to be a good game. It ended up not really being so much. Texas A&M versus Texas. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, Texas, they had the big 4th down stops to protect. It just seemed like, I'm going to tell you right now, that defense for Texas is really good. Because they made Texas A&M, they just could get nothing going. I mean, they scored Manning, and then they got down Texas down in the red zone, and instead of using Ewers to do a run-in touchdown, they brought in Arch Manning. They knew that Ewers' bum ankle wasn't going to get him in, so they brought him in, and then Ewers had that touchdown he had to make it 14-0 with Blue. God, that was that was a good catch, but he threw it in a dart right there. That made it 14-0. And then finally Texas defense, A&M's defense woke up with that pick 6. Got him right back, and I'm thinking, wow, they're back in this game. And then they get that fumble. Texas fumbles the ball. They get it on that 4th and goal it's like Texas knew they had no blocking on the DN, and he came right in there and stuffed them. It's like they knew the play.
Yeah, and it wasn't a fumble; it was a block punt. But still, but I guess my thing about this that red zone drive was you ran the ball every single time. You didn't throw.
No.
And when at any point of that game were your offensive line more physical than the defensive line of Texas? Name one point in this game they weren't. So why do you think in the red zone you were going to be able to run the ball into the end zone? You just weren't.
Right.
So why not a play action? Why not? And also, too, I'm going to say this. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm not a football genius. I couldn't even be a coach. I'll just say that right off the bat, okay? But I cannot stand when you are within the 5 yards and you're still in shotgun.
I know.
Center.
Yeah.
I think he lost a couple hair cells or a couple brain cells yesterday and punching himself because he was like, why are you in shotgun? Because you got to catch the snap, you got to hand it off. By that time, all that stuff has happened. Get under center and turn, and that running back is coming at full speed and go. Now, understand, when you're under center, if you turn, there's a good chance that D-line gets forced, that the quarterback can go down.
Right.
But it just, I think they got out. They're just so much more talented at Texas. I think Texas finally started playing some of that type of football that they need to play if they want to be contenders.
Yep.
But I think they're beatable.
Yeah.
I don't know of a college team right now that I'm like, holy shit.
I totally agree. I think this playoff is wide open. Yes. Wide open.
And it might be one of these teams that we're like, oh, Boise State, or some of these ones where we're like, oh, but they run the ball, and you're going to run it. And I will say this too. Watch out for these boys right here. Watch out for these boys, because I think with their type of defense they play, but Texas is going to stay in games because of that defense. That defense has been very consistent all throughout the year. Texas A&M, like, besides those two plays, the pick six and the block punt,
they did nothing else. No. Yeah, no.
And
you're at home like that, you've got to play better than that. Come on. And you win, you're in the SEC championship and probably in the playoffs.
Yeah. I didn't know if they're going to go back to Connor because they had nothing going.
Right.
And it was like, do you go back to that wingman or whatever instead? And it was like, but yeah, so that was our 3 must-watch games. And the rest of the NCAA, you had Oregon beating Washington 49-21, which I didn't know this. Interesting fact, that's the first time that Oregon coach has beat Washington.
Really?
I thought, but they've upsetted them. Or you got to remember the national championship. Penn State beat Maryland 44-7 with Ohio State losing. Penn State will be in the Big Ten championship. Notre Dame beats USC 49-35. Syracuse upsets Miami 42-38. Tennessee wins against Vanderbilt 36-23. SMU beats Cal 38-6. Indiana beats Purdue 66-0. Alabama beats Auburn 28-14. Arizona State beats Arizona 49-7. Iowa State pulls out a thriller a little bit last night, 29-21 against Kansas State. BYU beats Houston 30-18. Missouri wins 28-21 against Arkansas. UNLV wins 38-14. And Illinois pulls it out. Kind of looked like a close game against Northwestern, 38-28. What other games did brought to your attention this weekend?
The Duke wins on a last-second touchdown. They win. The defense for, I don't remember what the team they were playing, but there was none.
Wait for
it. Yeah. Miami had a 21-0 lead against Syracuse. Shit the bed. Now they're not looking good, like you said. Maybe they're not a playoff team. ND winning 49-35 with not one, but 2 pick sixes that are over 100 yards. Other than that, they came to at the end. They just tightened up. Illinois 9-3, first time since 2017. So is that program back? Coming back? And then the Rourke won 6 touchdowns in the 66-0 whipping of Purdue.
Yeah, and I think we got to take a quick second about Notre Dame, because we watched it. Obviously, we were sitting on the seat. This was the most talented team they played all year. Like, talented.
Right.
I'm not saying best team. I'm saying talented.
Right.
And it was one of these games where if Notre Dame plays like this in the playoffs, they will lose. And what I mean by that is 2 turnovers. Cannot.
Yeah.
Because what Notre Dame is known for is causing turnovers, making turnovers, not producing turnovers.
Yeah.
So you cannot have that. But then it was like that defense has to tighten up eventually. And because he's a freshman, the second interception, I blame on him. The first one, I don't blame on him. He threw a ball that was back shoulder, wide receiver falls, DB makes a play on it, touchdown, right? Second one, he's getting rushed. He throws it up
there was nobody there.
Yeah. Xavier Watts just makes a play. But I definitely think that Syracuse beat Miami, was good for my bets. But a lot of upsets this weekend. It was just one of these things where – but what I will say, a final thing is I hate how some of these teams lost and they're still in their championship.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks. Like, Clemson still being in it was like, that's tough. But how'd you do on your bets this weekend?
I went 2-1. I got the over on the Syracuse Miami. That was 67.5. Iowa State last night winning. I think they were laying 2.5 or 3, but UNC, the Mac Brown era is now over. They finished at 6-6, but they end up losing, or they end up losing the game. So I went 2-1.
Yeah, I also went 2-1 as well. As I took that Syracuse, I had getting 11 points on that one. Obviously, they win, so I didn't even need the points. I took South Carolina getting the 3 points, and honestly, I told you if you're a little risky, take the money line. They win. Hopefully, you were a little risky. And then I took the under because I was like, hey, good defenses here with Oklahoma and LSU. Yeah, the over hit like in the first half. Sorry about that one. If you took out of that one, I apologize. But let's move on to the NFL. We got a big day of Sunday football. Today we have for our must-watch games. First game off the bat, we're going to start with another rival game that kind of starts a little feuds as well. Steelers versus Bengals. Both these teams need a win. Bounce back for the Steelers. Bengals just to keep in the race. Joe Burrow is amongst the leaders. This is a crazy stat. Joe Burrow is amongst the leaders in completions, passing yards, and passing touchdowns. Jamar Chase is leading in the NFL of receiving yards and touchdowns, and they have the record they have.
Yeah, that's because their defense is terrible.
Yes, and I will say the Steelers have to get after Joe Burrow today. They have to get this. So I'm actually betting on this game later. Yes. And so what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, Steelers need to get back after that bad loss in Cleveland, that snow globe game in Cleveland. So, they're going to be looking to rebound. And Pittsburgh has, in the last 2 meetings, has won the last 2 meetings and 3 out of the last 4. Cincinnati needs a win. They almost have to win out to get into playoffs, to have any talk about being in the playoffs. I think Arthur Smith has got to get this offense back going. I mean, you can't keep kicking field goals. I'm sorry. That's not going to win you a lot of games. So they've got to find something for Wilson to get him going and Najee going. They've got to get something going on that. And like you said, Steelers defense has got to put a little pressure on Burrow, I mean, because they did pretty good not last game, but against the Ravens, where they held Lamar to 16 points. So that's where they almost got to be at on this game, And the Bengals they're going to get their left tackle back, Orlando Brown. He's been out for an injury, And Cincinnati's defense is terrible. I mean, they've given up 26.9 points a game. Yikes.
Well, and this is a game to find out where the Steelers' offense is because the defense is that bad. I think they've used the Justin Fields, Russell Wilson trait very well, but I think this is where playoff time, getting closer to that playoff time, you need to start using that combo.
Yeah.
We saw last night with Texas. We talked about it with Arch Manning. Arch Manning is 225 pounds. Quinn Ewers is like 200 and something, but he don't run the same way.
Right.
I think you got to do that with Russell, with the difference between Russell and Justin Fields in this game. But I think Pittsburgh, we talked about you as a Super Bowl caliber team, and then we lose, and I think they've lost like 2 in a row, I believe, or they lost one. It's just one of these ones where it's like, okay, you got to get it going again. And this is how you do it. Now, when we loved the Steelers and thought they were good, they hadn't played any conference games yet.
Right.
You're going through these conference games, you got to win these games here.
Yeah.
And this is just a good rival game. For me growing up, I remember I think it was like Centennial Holmes coming across the middle, or maybe it was what's the one that's crazy that took his jersey off?
Brown. Yeah.
Yeah. And coming across the middle and
that Burfitt just laid him out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this has been a type of like rival where you're like, it is a college feeling in the NFL with how this yesterday went for college football. I definitely think this is a game that you got to watch just because they're going to get at each other. For the second must-watch game, now this I think is the game of the weekend. It is easily one of the best games. Eagles versus Ravens. Both running backs are coming off MVP seasons, are having MVP seasons,
right?
Coming from their longtime teams of Tennessee and the Giants. But the Eagles defense has to contain Lamar Jackson and the big plays. They've been playing good as of recent, but remember in the beginning of the year, that Eagles defense was rough. So let's see if they can keep that up. Eagles will be without Brandon Graham, Darius Slay, and Devontae Smith, while Ravens getting back Roquan Smith. So this will definitely be a two of tails with the injuries. But what do you think about this game?
Yeah, this possibly could be a Super Bowl preview. These both teams could be playing each other in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, okay.
Possible. If everything lands right. Eagles riding a 7-game winning streak against ball, and it's like you said. Can the Eagles defense contain? I don't think they're going to shut them down, but contain Lamar Jackson that offense because they are one of the better scoring offenses. Can Fangio come up with scheme some stuff? Because Jackson is averaging over 300 yards passing and 6 touchdowns. Got to get better with that. Another key is the Ravens pass defense. They're not very good either. So I think Hurts could have a monster game with A.J. Brown, now without Devontae Smith. But you throw it to Goddard. You can even throw it with Barkley in the backfield. Yeah. So I think that pass defense is not very good. So I think this could be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, I definitely look at this game and say the week before I had said Ladd McConkey and Zay Flowers. I think this game you look at the tight ends. I think Mark Andrews just came on as of recent. I think Dallas Goedert's going to be your second best option with Devontae Smith being out. I just think this is the type of game where we're talking about the running backs. But I wouldn't be surprised if the first half is a low-scoring game.
Right.
Because both these teams want to run the ball, and it takes a little bit to get that running attack going.
Right.
So I definitely think that we have all this hype going into the game, but don't be surprised that first half is like, it's 7-3, 7-7. And then the second half, the game ends 35-35, right? Or some crap like that. It's going to get exciting, but it might start out slow. But both quarterbacks can run the ball. Both quarterbacks have shown that they have the legs to go off on that. How do these defense contain them? Keep them in the pocket. Make Lamar and Jalen Hurts use their arms to beat you today.
Right.
I think this is a great game. And I love that the running backs. I love these. They both said they were too old. They're too old. And I take it personally. I think I'm the same age as Derrick Henry, okay? I am old, and I can never him. But the fact that, they're like, he needs to be out of the league. That man is having a hell of a year. Saquon Barkley, and obviously seeing what the Giants situation is. So I think this will be a game. It's a 3 o'clock, so it's only 3 games on that time. Throw Red Zone on one TV. Throw this game on a second one. Watch this one. This will be a great game.
I do too. I agree.
This moves us to our night game, 49ers versus Bills. And I'm going to let you take it off right there. What do you think about this game?
I think this is a matchup between two teams back in the 90s that played in a lot of Super Bowls.
Yeah.
You had the Bills playing in the 90s where they lost 4 in a row. And you had the 49ers. They were dominant in the 90s too, But I think both these teams are going in opposite directions. I think the Bills are playing their best ball right now. And the 49ers they're just not the same team. I think the injuries is finally caught up to them. I just don't think CMC is all right, but I don't think he's. I mean, they're just not utilize him. Is Purdy coming back? It looks like he is. They've got to get CMC going and don't allow the Bills convert on third downs. But the 49ers, I've seen this. They have 15 people on the injury report. That's a lot of players that is on the injury report. 49ers are going to have to get a win here. I think they still got a shot at the division, at NFC West, but they got to get it going here. And also, too, it ain't looking good for the weather. They're talking feet of snow, not inches like it is around here, feet with a lake effect snow. So now they really have got to get CMC going because I don't think you're going to be throwing the ball too far in this kind of weather.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a big game for James Cook today. I think James Cook utilized a lot for the Bills. Yeah, they're going to have 77 feet of snow. It's crazy. We are in the Midwest, right? And I even went more north, but it's the fact of the amount of snow they get is crazy in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw pictures of the interstate, and this was like Friday, I think I saw it, and it was the cars were just stopped, and they were well, these people are used to bringing water, full battery charge of phone, and food with them.
Right.
I was always instructed when I was younger to bring an extra set of clothes, so you had to bundle up in case you ever got stuck. Bringing food, water, and stuff, that is obnoxious. But in this game, I definitely agree. Purdy is supposed to play. I saw that right before we jumped on. Nick Bosa and Trent Williams out.
Yeah, that's gonna hurt him.
That left tackle being out, and then Nick Bosa. We saw it against, I think it was Seattle. Seattle couldn't score when Nick Bosa was in, and then Seattle went down and scored and won the game against them because of it.
Right.
Nick Bosa being out. I just think Leonard Floyd's coming back to Buffalo. He was in Buffalo, and then San Francisco after there. I do. I think this is a great what it could have been game this year if it wasn't for so many injuries for the 49ers. And then at the same time, Amari Cooper and which I think he's expected to play, but it seems like they're kind of getting their flow going with offense goes. I think it'll be an exciting one for them to kind of fully get grasp of their offense. It's a standalone game. It's a Sunday night game. Yeah. It is one of these games where you definitely kind of want to watch. I just don't think it's going to be as close as what people are thinking.
Yeah.
Buffalo's used to this. San Fran's not used to what they're about to go into.
Right.
So, and Josh Allen's having a great year. You know, it's a 1 year. I think I've been in fantasy for 3 years now. I think the first 2 years I did get Josh Allen, and I was always notorious for throwing 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So he just put me on the points. This year, he doesn't throw any interceptions. I didn't draft his ass, and so now he's not throwing. But rest of the NFL today. So the noon, we still, this I kind of said it in the last podcast that like we'll have less games. Actually, we have the same amount of games for Sunday than we usually do because there's no teams on buys. So at the noontime, like we said, the Steelers and Bengals are playing. The Chargers and Falcons, Cardinals and Vikings, Colts and Patriots, Seahawks and Jets, Titans and Commanders, Texans and Jaguars. At 3 o'clock, you have the Rams and Saints, Buccaneers and Panthers, Eagles and Ravens. Tonight, you have the 49ers and Bills. And then on Monday night, you have the Browns and Broncos. What do you got for your bets this week?
We'll start off with the Colts and Patriots. Colts coming off the loss to the Lions 24-6, while the Patriots are looking to rebound from that 34-15 loss to the Dolphins. Patriots have failed to cover the spread in 8 of the last 9 home games in December, while the Colts have covered the spread in 7 of their last 8 games against AFC opponents. I like the Colts on the road here. This team has not thrown the towel in just yet. Of course, the Patriots have either, as Mayo's is still playing, that team is still playing hard. So I like the Colts and laying the 2.5.
I totally agree with this one. This one was one of my thoughts of betting on this weekend was because I think Anthony Richardson's starting to get his feet under him. Yeah. We've seen the difference of Bryce Young since he's been coming back and got benched. So I definitely agree with this one. I like this one. For me, I'm taking the one of our must-watch games, the Steelers versus Bengals. I think this is a game where the Steelers get back into it. I like them. They're getting 3 points. That was so surprising to me, even though they're the better winning team right now. Blah blah blah. I think that defense corrals. I'm not stopping. Corrals that offense for the Bengals, and I think they start getting that offense better going. I think this is a game where you bounce back with that offense, start showing the dominance. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers getting the 3 points in this one. If you're really risky in this one, take the money line for this one. I think.
Yeah, I think that the Bengals. I mean, I think you could see a lot of scoring if they can get that Steeler offense going, but the Bengals defense is terrible. I mean, we said 31st in the league. They're giving up a lot of points.
Yeah, no, definitely. What do you got for your second bet?
Rams and Saints. Rams coming off the bad loss to the Eagles, where they gave up 300 yards to Saquon Barkley. And now they go against Alvin Kamara. I mean, which is pretty close to the same. The Rams need to find a way to get Kyron Williams going. He's been struggling, only averaging about 95. The team's ground game is only averaging 95 yards. The home team has won 9 of the last 10 between the two teams. The Saints have covered the spread in each of the last four home games against losing record teams. I can't believe the Saints are getting the 3 points at home. So I'm going to take the Saints getting the 3 at home.
You know what? And I'll bet you a SOTY on it because I'm betting the other way on this game. I like the Rams.
Right.
I think it's actually dropped to 2.5. So, I put the Rams getting 2.5 on this one, or giving 2.5.
Right.
I like this game. I think that the Saints, yes, they have Alvin Kamara. Outside of that, who do you have? Who?
Yeah.
Because you don't have Chris Olave, you don't have Shaheed, you don't have all these players. So you got to shut him down. You got to shut him down, and not shut him down. Just limit him.
Yeah.
So on the other side of the ball, who do the Saints have on defense that's going to stop Puka, Cooper Kupp, and Kyron Williams? Because I do think Kyron Williams takes a step forward in this game. Right. And watch out for Blake Corum. Blake Corum's been getting used a lot more for the Rams. I think.
Well, that's because Kyron's putting the ball on the ground too. Yeah. So that's why they're.
But I still think Matt Stafford in this kind of game, it's a dome game. It's just one of these ones where I think he takes this one. I like them giving a 2.5, 3, whatever. I think
Right.
they pretty well.
Gotcha.
What do you got for your third bet?
We're going to go back to the snow game of 49ers and Bills. I think this is, we like we talked, it's going to be a lot of snow. So I think Buffalo is going to be suited up for this. I think they're going to use the ball with Allen. Allen's going to use his legs more than maybe his arm. And James Cook is. The 49ers will have to, I like the Bills here. I really do. I think with this, the way the weather is, I know the line is big here, but the Bills are rolling right now. I mean, they are just after that big win against KC last game, and I think the 49ers just have too many injuries. They just, with 15 people, that's a lot. So I'll take the Bills and I'll lay the 7 points.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that one. That one's tough to lay that amount of points.
Yeah.
It is one of those ones where I just think Buffalo gets out and they keep putting it on him. So
yeah, I agree.
I do not have a third bet because I took the Green Bay game earlier this week, if you were watching the podcast. But I will throw a bonus one out there. I'm not betting it, but if you're looking at one, I like Seattle money line against the Jets because I think Seattle's starting to get it going now. Kenneth Walker might be used very well in this game because the Jets defense can't stop the run. At the same time, you got Jackson Smith, Njigba, and DK going off on the wide receivers. Noah Fant, I think, a tight end. Jets right now are just
yeah.
And the fact that they're giving them or allowing that to be, I think the Jets are giving a point in this game. Being a game is obnoxious for me. I don't know where you think that the Jets can play in this game. If Seahawks play the way they did before when DK was out, yes, this is a close game. But when DK's in there, they're a good team. I like this. Also, this game, Geno Smith is going back to the Jets. First time since going back to that stadium. So I definitely think that one. That's a bonus one. Throw it out if you want. If not, you might want to listen to that man. Oh, this way. That man because of the way that he's been betting with 12-0 for the NFL for the past 4 weeks. So you might want to listen to those ones over mine. But we want to thank everyone for listening. We will be back on Wednesday. We're recording on Tuesday after the NFL games. We'll talk a little bit more now about what conference games are going to be playing for college football, how that results in what college the playoffs might look like. We'll kind of get more into the playoffs now of college football as well because of now we're almost there. We're almost at the end of the year. We want to totally appreciate all of our fans for listening. This is episode 45, which is crazy to think about. But we want to thank everyone that supported us. If you like what we do, comment. If you like what we do, share it, subscribe. If you don't like it, or if you're a USC fan, go shove it up because I don't care. Have a great weekend. Enjoy football, and we'll see you on Wednesday.